Magic the Gathering died today, and woe is us! We're in a lot of trouble! That's right. Wizards announced 6 standard sets a year, half of them Universes Beyond, plus a bunch of other stuff. We're going to talk about it. Let's go. Welcome to the Attic. ManaDad here. It's the channel where we explore what's fun in Magic, mostly on Arena, but not on Arena today. But we're going to talk about things that are going to happen on Arena. I'm dealing with a cold. Apologize if my voice sounds funny. I'm going to try to keep this brief and not talk too much. But yeah. So this weekend, Wizards announced Universes Beyond is coming to Standard. So it's not just the straight to Modern like Lord of the Rings or Assassin's Creed, which I guess everyone just forgot about. It made no splash at all. And maybe that is part of the reason they just were like, okay, we're going straight to Modern. But I guess the new Marvel set won't be. Could you slow down, Wizards? They just announced a 3-year rotation. They just announced Foundations, which is going to stay in for 5 years, potentially longer. All right, but let's take a look at this. This announcement here. This is the official Twitter thread. So Aetherdrift, that's in world. Tarkir Dragonstorm, that's in world. Then Final Fantasy, that's a Universes Beyond. Edge of Eternities, I guess that's in world. Spider-Man, a Marvel Spider-Man set. So that's different than the Marvel set that's coming out soon, I guess. And then an unannounced Universes Beyond. We don't know what that is. I mean, the ultimate one would be Star Wars, but they probably don't have that. I actually think Final Fantasy should jibe okay. It'd be like Lord of the Rings, where it's close enough to Magic that it won't feel so crazy. And of course, the Marvel stuff is a big one. But here's the thing. If you were like, okay, Universes Beyond, it's not really Magic, but that's okay. If somebody has it in Commander, that's fine. But I don't have to play it in competitive unless I play Modern. But now you don't have that choice. And I just think that there will be a fan-created format that has no Universes Beyond. I can almost guarantee it. Because I think as long as they still continue to mark the Universes Beyond with the triangle, it'll be pretty easy to sort out what is and isn't in that format. And you could even have a standard format. You could have, within standard, within modern, or W standard, W modern, if you want to do like a CEDH kind of thing. I think that will happen. If Wizards might even announce it at some point. And I'll get to Wizards' defense of this. I mean, obviously, they're doing this because Lord of the Rings, we know, was hugely popular, and their statistics show it brought people into the game, and bringing people into Commander or even Modern is not as good as bringing them into Standard. Standard is a much easier place to start people. Now, we're talking about a Standard now. It's a 3-year rotation, so we went from 4 sets a year for a 2-year rotation, so like 8 sets, to now we have 4 sets a year, 3 years, plus Foundations, so that's 19 sets, plus I guess if you count like stuff like what is the Aftermath set, the mini set, maybe even 20 sets. Am I getting the math right on that? Somebody correct me in the comments if not. So already Standard is a much bigger card pool with more mechanics, so it's still a lot to throw at a new player, but it is a better entry point than Commander, which has every mechanic and basically almost every card from the history of Magic. When you sit down at a table, you might be asked, and it's got multiple players, so you're tracking multiple players. It is a lot of brain power to throw somebody into. But that is what is happening. Okay. Most of you know that already. I'm not going to belabor that. Let's talk about, oh, and then, Pioneer Masters. we could spend all day talking about some of the other things they announced here. One of the reasons they said they don't want to do so many direct to modern sets is that with cards like Nadu and things, they've done a bad job balancing the power level, but they're still going to do Pioneer Masters and they're still going to do modern Pioneer Horizons. Okay, so the Pioneer Masters, Modern Horizon. They're going to do Modern Horizon sets and they're going to do Pioneer Master sets, even though they've admitted that they're not good at balancing these things, or at least that it's hard for them. Well, let's see what Mark Rosewater, he's the lead game designer. He has a blog on Tumblr, and people are upset about this, and he does a good job of dealing directly with people, I think, and at least trying to address their concerns, although he's probably a little bit handcuffed in terms of what he can say. Everything on the blog he tries to put in from the perspective of what is known at the time. So people always get upset, like, oh, he lied because blah, blah, blah. Marvel came a week later after he said it wasn't coming, but he has to not release stuff early. So he's basically answering these blog questions as if it's 2 years in the past for him, but he knows 2 years in advance. I mean, they know what's coming down the pipe. All right. But he does know that, but he's also trying to keep that in mind. Anyways, so keep that all in mind. But Amelia Biss asks, I appreciate your patience in listening to people mourn what's currently being decided right now. If I can contribute something as well, I'm also a Universes Beyond fan, and I agree with the mechanical uniqueness and the awesome designs and all that. However, the mantra being spoken before has been, maybe this product isn't for you. And while that was far from easing my concerns about some decisions, now that Universes Beyond is going to be at every level of competitive play, WotC has taken away the ability for competitive players to opt out of an experience they don't want to partake in. If you want to win, you have to get Sephiroth and Green Goblin, etc. I like Universes Beyond as an opt-in choice, but the current decision feels malicious towards those who expressed their concerns before, who were abated by consolations WotC had rolled back. It does feel like a cynical money grab at the cost of many of the most dedicated players. And this also raises another point I should have brought up a minute ago. How do they do reprints, right? They only have a certain window in which they can print these Universes Beyond cards. If one gets popular, one becomes essential. Is it a de facto reserve list where they can't reprint it? Or because they've not really shown that they have the capacity to print enough universes within versions of things. They've done a few, like they did the Stranger Things ones after there was that outcry, but then their whole way to do that was supposed to be on the list, but the list has changed now. All right, but anyways, let's see what Mark says. It's not a, quote, cynical money grab. It's us responding to two big pieces of feedback from the players. One, straight to modern sets were speeding up the flux in modern. Metagames are influenced by how many new relevant cards enter the environment, and having a bunch of straight to modern sets was creating unwanted flux. Okay. That could have been foreseeable. Modern players enjoyed that archetypes lasted longer than in smaller formats. It was a loud compliment often made here on Blogatog. This change is made to address that. Okay. But they're still going to reserve the right to do Modern Horizons, direct to Modern Horizons sets. Okay. There's a corollary to that issue because we had less experience with making straight to modern cards. Our ability to balance them wasn't as efficient as premier sets. This change also has the vast majority of cards going through the same system and power level, one we have years of experience with. Talked about that already. Players who were entering through Universes Beyond, and there are a lot of them, it's a primary strength of UB sets, that wanted to play competitively were thrown into Modern. That's just a bad entry ramp into tournament Magic, and it was a common complaint we were getting from newer players. Universes Beyond greatest contribution to the long-term health of Magic is as a conduit to introduce new players, learn the game system with a property you love, and once you see what a great game Magic is, become a lifelong Magic player. To accomplish this, we need to have a softer landing spot, and we believe that is standard. Note, this is in addition to a lot of other work we are doing to return Standard to prominence. And I think they've done a decent job of that in the last year, honestly. Standard seems to be better. The longer rotation, I think, was seems to be working out. There was a great world championship that everybody agrees, had a good variety of decks, really good play. I know it's easy to want to attribute malice to a company's decisions, but we are really trying to do what we feel is best for the long-term health of the game. Well, but they're also making money off of it. Let's be real. I mean, they're not going to not do the Universes Beyond because they're making lots of money. And we've known that. We've known that they're going to continue to do that. Hey, Mark. Overall, I'm a fan of UB. However, with the recent announcement, I think having 3 full UB tentpole sets a year might be a bit much, simply because I'm concerned that the well of potential UB partners with enough material for a fully fleshed out set with support for all 5 colors is not deep enough for it to be sustainable. And Mark says, this cadence is not forever, it's for now. Okay, so they've done a bunch of these deals. They want to get the sets out. Maybe they won't, but maybe they will. I don't necessarily think the cadence is just for now. The other thing people have suggested is that maybe some of these Universe Beyond sets will be more like Aftermath. They'll just be like little sets and not really draftable. I mean, I like to draft the sets. I think that's a great way to explore the sets. There's a lot of cards that are really fantastic in draft that you'd never see in constructed that I enjoy playing with. We'll read one more here. Mr. Rosewater, I really think Magic is going to be okay. I was an initial critic of UB back when it was announced, but I gave it a chance because I really like Lord of the Rings. I mean, I think Lord of the Rings, we all agree Lord of the Rings was a good fit for Magic because most fantasy things comes from that rootstock of Lord of the Rings. After playing with LOTR and seeing the fidelity y'all showed to the source, especially with all the art being original and not copy-paste from the films, I was more than sold. The point where I became vocal supporter of Universes Beyond was Fallout, though. I literally have no attachment to Fallout at all, never played, never engaged with it at all. However, after procrastinating my deck construction for a casual store commander league, which required a UB commander, I was left scrambling to come up with something that worked and found the Red Death. I built a janky Go deck that I love dearly, and I was sold that Wizards could do flavorful, interesting designs, even for someone with no attachment to the media that the card comes from. I even decided to purchase Fallout as a franchise any further, but dang, I sure do love that crab. Thanks for sharing. I mean, I didn't never really liked Warhammer, but I played with the Warhammer decks, and I'm not. My wife is a big Doctor Who fan, but I'm not a Doctor Who fan, and I played with the Doctor Who decks. So I mean, they got me. I've explored some of these universes beyond that were not specifically for me, but that was Commander, and it just felt like Commander already people were reskinning cards. That just doesn't feel as out of place. I am joining people and being fearful. Okay, so another thing I wanted to share with you all is Sierkovitz does a lot of content for Limited, analyzes things, has a really great way of analyzing and breaking things down with statistics. And Sierkovitz says, I normally trivialize Magic dramas, but 6 sets a year is a bit much. Also, it leaves no space in the calendar to introduce some old sets to Arena. I'm looking at the 8-week content cycle for each set, and that is wild. We'll reduce the depth of analysis too. And believe me, I watched Sierkovitz's like 3-hour videos. I appreciate somebody who can do a really in-depth analysis of a set. And it's going to be harder, if not impossible, to keep up with all these sets. But I'm going in with an open mind. So here's a reply. Including Foundations, we had 9 this year, 10 with Big Score, which was the set that was folded into Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which meant to be standalone. But when they realized that nobody really liked Aftermath, they're like, they made it a bonus sheet within Outlaws. I think people might be misinterpreting the 6-set announcement. Imagine, regardless of legality, they won't all be full sets like people seem to be thinking, which is the point I made earlier. Still, Bloomburrow was so good, and Duskmourn is not like super my style, but it's the people have really liked the in-depth gameplay and everything. I like what they do in actual Magic world, and I do think stuff like Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Murders of Carla Manor, the recent hat sets have been a bit of a stretch. But part of that is they knew they were headed towards this Universes Beyond thing, I think, and they were trying to like expand the Magic world in the direction of the other worlds that they might be trying to bring in. It's a lot. I feel for the designers to have to come up with so many designs. Are they going to be taxed creatively? I mean, I guess theoretically they would be doing the same number of sets, but some of these would have been straight to Modern instead under the old system. You know, considering alchemy sets are not stopping, all sets like MH3 will also come to Arena from now on. This approaches 1 set per month for Arena players. Factoring in special guests and various bonus sheets, which are hard to find in packs, this is impossible to keep up with. This is where I think people are going to revolt. This is the next step here that I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. But unless the arena economy starts to address, you know, how hard it's going to be to collect enough cards, you're going to feel like you're able to get, with your free to play or with the amount of money you used to put in, you're going to feel like you can play less and less. You're going to be able to have less and less of the cards just to play standard, just like the most basic level format of Arena is standard. And you're going to have to come in and be and play, and not, unless you're putting more money in, you're not going to be able to have 4 of every rare and every mythic rare and build all the decks you want. And you won't even have time to build all the decks you want. Every new release, you only got 8 weeks to explore it. So if they make a really in-depth set, you won't even get to explore the depths of it and enjoy it. So I feel bad for the designers in that way. It's already felt like the pace is too fast. Like we're already getting preview seasons when we're just starting to learn and enjoy a new set. I do think that Wizards is probably hitting some kind of diminishing returns point, and they can pull it back, but I guess they want to push it, see how far they can push it. And it is a big heavy wagon that doesn't turn very quickly. You know, it's 2 years before the feedback reaches a new set. So we're living in the feedback from 2 years ago, kind of. But are they making decisions based on gameplay? I mean, I personally want lots of new players to come in and experience this game. So that's why I've been, you know, I had resistance to Universes Beyond, but I was willing to give it a chance. And I do think it is bringing in new players. Clearly, they think it's bringing new players. I do think it's alienated some old-time players, and this has the potential to alienate some old-time players. I mean, if you're a busy dad like me, are you really going to be able to keep up with this many sets per year just to play standard? Even just to play casually on Arena a couple times a week. That's just made it that much harder. So what kind of player do they want? Do they want that casual check-in every once in a while player, or do they want like somebody who's really in it and who's going deep on every set? They probably want the deeper player versus a couple casual players. Probably the one deeper player spends more money than the couple casual players. I don't know. I would love to see the data. But anyways, leave your thoughts in the comments. Just a quick video to get out and share what's on my mind, what I'm thinking about. Thanks for joining me in the attic. I've been ManaDad, reminding you Magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it. Adios.